Una stood before the Council of Elders, her hands trembling slightly as she held the ancient datapad. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from 40 different species. Their eyes watched her with varying degrees of interest and skepticism. "Honorable members," Una began, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I have spent 5 years studying the old texts. The evidence is clear. Humans were real." A ripple of laughter spread through the chamber. Counselor Rex, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms, shook his head. "Young scholar, we appreciate your dedication. But humans are myths. Stories we tell children to teach them about the dangers of violence and war." Una felt her heart sink, but she pressed on. "The descriptions are too detailed to be mere stories. Multiple civilizations from different time periods wrote about them. They described the same species. Bipedal, relatively small, but incredibly adaptable. They could survive in almost any environment. They were creative, stubborn, and violent," another counselor interrupted. "The myths say they destroyed themselves in endless wars. That is why they vanished, if they ever existed at all." Back in her small quarters on the research station, Una sat with her mentor, Timon. The old scholar poured her a cup of warm tea, his weathered face kind but tired. "You expected them to believe you?" Timon asked gently. "I had hope," Una admitted. "The evidence is there, Master. Why won't they see it?" Timon sighed. "Because it is easier to dismiss uncomfortable truths. The old texts say humans were dangerous. Not because they were evil, but because they refused to give up. Ever. That kind of determination frightens people who have known only peace. Do you think they were real?" Una asked. "I know they were," Timon said quietly. "I've seen things in the deepest archives. Things the Council does not want anyone to find. Coordinates. Hidden locations. The humans did not destroy themselves, Una. They left." Before Una could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed. Timon rushed to his terminal, his face going pale as he read the incoming reports. "What is it?" Una asked. "The Outer Rim colonies," Timon whispered. "They are under attack." Within days, the news spread across the galaxy. A massive force called the Valkyresh Swarm had appeared from dark space. No one knew where they came from. They simply arrived and began destroying everything in their path. The Valkyresh were unlike anything the galaxy had seen in thousands of years. They were insectoid, covered in black armor, and they moved in perfect coordination like a single organism. Their ships were biological nightmares that could repair themselves in battle. Their weapons dissolved matter at the molecular level. Captain Hyan watched the battle reports from the bridge of his science vessel, the Eternal Dawn. Colony after colony fell. Entire species were being wiped out. The galactic military tried to fight back, but their tactics were outdated. They had known peace for so long that war had become almost theoretical. "Captain," his first officer said, "we are receiving evacuation orders. All civilian vessels are to retreat to the core worlds." Hyan nodded slowly, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought about the young historian who had presented her research weeks ago. The one everyone had laughed at. He found Una in the research archives, frantically searching through old files. "The Council was wrong," Hyan said simply. Una looked up, surprised to see the captain. "About the humans?" "About everything. We need warriors. Real warriors. Not soldiers who have only ever trained but never fought." "The old texts you found, did they say anything about where the humans went?" Una's hands moved quickly across her terminal. "There are coordinates in the oldest files, but they point to a forbidden zone. No one goes there. Ships that enter never return." "Show me," Hyan said. The coordinates pointed to a region of space near a yellow star. The old text called it Sol, Ancient warnings surrounded the location. Danger. Do not approach. Protected by unknown forces. This could kill us, Hyan's first officer warned. The Council forbids travel to forbidden zones. The Council is watching their civilizations die, Hyan replied. If there is even a chance that humans exist, that they can help us, we have to try. Yuna gathered her research and boarded the Eternal Dawn. Timon came too, despite his age. If humans are real, the old scholar said, I want to see them with my own eyes. The journey took 3 days. As they approached the Forbidden Zone, their instruments began going haywire. Energy readings spiked off the charts. Something massive was ahead, but their sensors could not identify what. Captain, I am detecting a barrier of some kind, the science officer reported. It is surrounding the entire solar system. Energy signature is... I have never seen anything like this. The barrier shimmered into view as they got closer. It looked like a soap bubble made of pure energy, stretching across billions of kilometers. Inside, Yuna could see planets orbiting a yellow star. One planet in particular caught her attention. It was blue and green, covered in water and continents. Life signs? Hyan asked. Cannot penetrate the barrier with sensors, came the reply. But the barrier itself... Captain, it is failing. Something is disrupting it. The energy fluctuations from the Valkyresh weapons across the galaxy are causing interference. As they watched, cracks began forming in the barrier. Light poured through the gaps. And then, something appeared from behind the weakening shield. Ships, dozens of them. They were sleek and powerful, unlike any design the galaxy currently used. They moved with purpose and precision. Are those weapons platforms? The tactical officer asked, confused. No, Yuna whispered, her eyes wide with realization and awe. Those are warships. Real warships. The barrier collapsed completely. And for the first time in 12,000 years, humanity looked out at the galaxy that had forgotten them. A communication channel opened. A voice spoke in old galactic standard, the pronunciation ancient but understandable. Unknown vessel, you have entered Earth space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Hyan stepped forward, his voice shaking slightly. I am Captain Hyan of the Eternal Dawn. We come seeking help. Our galaxy is dying. We need warriors. There was a long pause. Then the voice spoke again, but this time with a note of sadness. We stopped being warriors a long time ago. We left to find peace. Please, Yuna said, stepping beside Hyan. We thought you were myths, legends, but you are real, and the galaxy is burning. If you ever cared about the other species out here, we need you now. Another long silence. Then a different voice spoke, deeper, harder. This is Commander Do-Yun of Earth Defense. Prepare to be escorted to the surface. We will hear what you have to say. As the Eternal Dawn descended toward the blue planet, Yuna looked at the thriving world below. Cities of light spread across the continents. Forests and oceans teemed with life. This was not a dead civilization. This was a civilization that had been waiting. They are going to say yes, Timon said quietly. How do you know? Yuna asked. The old scholar smiled sadly. Because humans are exactly what the myth said. They left to find peace. But when others are suffering, they cannot turn away. It is not in their nature. The shuttle touched down on a landing platform in what humans called Seoul. Yuna stepped out and immediately felt overwhelmed. The city was beautiful. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, but they were covered in green plants and gardens. The air was clean. People walked the streets below, living normal lives, completely unaware that the galaxy was at war. Commander Do-Yun met them at the platform. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and graying hair. He wore a military uniform that looked both practical and ceremonial. Behind him stood two others. A woman with intelligent eyes named Sora, who Do-Hyun introduced as his chief engineer, and a younger man named Jiho, a fighter pilot with eager energy. "Welcome to Earth," Do-Hyun said. His voice was neutral, giving nothing away. "Follow me." They were taken to a briefing room deep underground. The walls were lined with screens showing star maps and defensive positions. Yuna realized this was a military command center, hidden beneath the peaceful city. "Before we begin," Do-Hyun said, "you need to understand our history." He pressed a button. Images appeared on the screens. Humans fighting humans. Cities burning. Weapons of terrible power being used. Yuna felt sick watching the destruction. 12,000 years ago, we nearly destroyed ourselves, Do-Hyun explained. We fought wars over resources, beliefs, territory. We created weapons that could crack planets. We were days away from making Earth uninhabitable. What stopped you? Hyan asked quietly. We did, Sora answered. A group of leaders from all nations came together. They realized we had a choice: die fighting each other or leave the galaxy and learn to be better. Jiho continued the story. Our greatest scientists built the barrier. We sealed ourselves away from the rest of the galaxy. We decided to take time to grow, to evolve beyond our violent nature. We spent thousands of years learning peace. But you kept your weapons? Taemin observed, gesturing at the command center around them. We are peaceful, Do-Hyun said. We are not stupid. Peace requires strength to maintain it. We train. We prepare. We hope we never need to fight again. But if we must... He left the sentence unfinished. Yuna showed them the recording she had brought. The Valkyresh destroying colonies. Species being wiped out. Billions dying. The human commanders watched in silence, their faces growing darker with each image. When the recordings ended, Do-Hyun stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the city above, at the people living their peaceful lives. How many have died? He asked. 17 colonies completely destroyed, Hyan answered. 8 more under siege. Conservative estimates put the death toll at 40 billion and rising. Sora closed her eyes. 40 billion. Our government will need to vote, Do-Hyun said. We swore an oath 12,000 years ago. To never wage war again. Breaking that oath is not a decision I can make alone. How long will the vote take? Yuna asked desperately. 3 days, Do-Hyun replied. I am sorry. I know people are dying. But we are a democracy. This decision affects all of humanity. They were given quarters in the military complex. Yuna could not sleep. She kept thinking about the colonies falling while humanity debated. She understood their position, but it felt agonizing on the second day. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the complex. Yuna ran to the command center, where she found Do-Hyun and his team already assembled. What is happening? She asked. Valkyresh Scout Force, Sora reported, her fingers flying across her console. 12 ships. They followed the energy signature from our barrier collapse. They just entered the solar system. Yuna felt her blood turn cold. They found you. Because of us. Because we came here. Do-Hyun turned to Jiho. Get to your fighter. Alert the defense fleet. The vote has not happened yet, Jiho protested. They brought war to our doorstep, Do-Hyun said coldly. The vote just became irrelevant. We defend our home. Within minutes, the sky above Earth filled with human ships. Yuna watched from the command center as the defense fleet moved to intercept the Valkyresh scouts. There were hundreds of human vessels, all emerging from hidden stations around the planet and throughout the solar system. How many ships do you have? Hyan asked in amazement. Enough, Sora answered simply. The battle began at the edge of the solar system, near Mars. Yuna watched the tactical display as the two forces met. She expected it to be like the battles she had seen in the Galactic Fleet reports. Chaotic, desperate, brutal. Instead, she witnessed something completely different. The human ships moved like they were one organism. They did not charge forward recklessly. They spread out in precise formations. When the Valkyresh fired their molecular dissolution weapons, the human ships were already moving, already evading. They seemed to predict every move the enemy made. How are they doing that? Hyan asked. Tactical AI-assisted coordination, Sora explained. Every ship is connected. They share sensor data instantly. What one ship sees, all ships know. The Valkyresh are used to fighting isolated vessels. They have never faced a truly networked fleet. The human ships began their counterattack. Their weapons were different too. Railguns that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds. Missiles that could change direction mid-flight. Energy weapons that pulsed in rhythmic patterns, overwhelming Valkyresh. Shields through resonance frequencies rather than brute force. Jiho's fighter squadron dove through the Valkyresh formation. Yuna watched as the young pilot and his team moved with incredible precision. They were not just fighting. They were hunting. When a Valkyresh ship tried to escape, 3 fighters would already be in position to cut it off. When another turned to engage, it would find missiles already tracking it from multiple angles. They are not just winning, Tienan said in awe. They are dominating. The battle lasted 18 minutes. 12 Valkyresh ships entered the solar system. None left. The human fleet suffered 0 casualties. As the last Valkyresh vessel exploded, Do-hyun activated the Galactic Communication Network. His face appeared on screens across every inhabited world in the galaxy. People of the galactic community, he began. My name is Commander Do-hyun of Earth. For 12,000 years, humanity has lived in isolation. We left you in peace. We wanted only to find peace for ourselves. He paused, looking directly into the camera. You thought we were myths. You forgot we existed. That is fine. We chose that path. But now you are under attack by an enemy that shows no mercy. Now you are dying. Now you need help. Do-hyun's expression hardened. We left to find peace. But we never forgot how to wage war. We hoped we would never need these skills again. We were wrong. Behind him, the image showed Earth's defensive fleet. Hundreds of warships, each one more advanced than anything the current galaxy possessed. We do not fight because we hate what is in front of us, Do-hyun said. We fight because we love what is behind us. Our home, our families, our future. And now, we extend that protection to you. He leaned forward, his voice becoming steel. To the Valkyresh swarm, know this. You picked the wrong galaxy to invade. Humanity is coming. And we will show you why they turned us into myths. The transmission ended. In the command center, everyone stood in stunned silence. Then slowly, messages began pouring in from across the galaxy. From colonies under siege. From species facing extinction. From the council that had dismissed Yuna's research. All of them saying the same thing. Thank you. Please help us. Please save us. Do-hyun turned to his team. Sora, begin full mobilization. Activate all reserve fleets. Jiho, gather the squadron commanders. We need to plan our first offensive. They looked at Yuna and Hyan. Your ship is damaged from passing through our barrier. My engineers will repair it and upgrade it. You will be our liaisons to the Galactic Fleet. Teach them our tactics. Help them coordinate with our forces. You are really doing this, Yuna said. You are going to war. Do-hyun nodded slowly. We swore we would never wage war again. But we also know that evil triumphs when good people do nothing. We tried isolation. We tried peace. Now we try something harder. We try to save others while keeping our souls intact. Sora pulled up a star map showing Valkyrish positions. The enemy is concentrated here, here, and here. Their main fleet is besieging the Talmora homeworld. 4 billion people trapped on the surface. Then, that is where we go first, Do-hyun decided. We are going to show the galaxy what humans really are. Not myths. Not monsters. Heroes. Jiho grinned. When do we leave? Dawn tomorrow, Do-hyun said. Get some rest. All of you. Tomorrow, the galaxy remembers why they feared us. And tomorrow, they learn why they should love us instead. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Talmora system. Yuna watched from the bridge of the upgraded Eternal Dawn as hundreds of warships materialized around them. It was the largest military force assembled in the galaxy in over 10,000 years. On the surface of Talmora Prime, 4 billion people were trapped. The Valkyrish had surrounded the planet with their biological ships, blocking any escape. They were slowly breaking down the planetary shields, preparing for the final assault. Commander Dawn's voice came across all fleet channels. All vessels, this is command. Remember your training. We are not here to win glory. We are here to save lives. Execute Battle Plan Sanctuary. May you all return home safely. The human fleet split into 3 groups. The first group, led by Jiho's fighters, accelerated toward the Valkyrish blockade at incredible speeds. The second group, heavy cruisers commanded by Sora from the flagship, moved to flank positions. The third group, troop carriers led by Marine Commander Minho, stayed back, waiting for an opening. Yuna had met Minho before the battle. He was a quiet man with steady hands and eyes that had seen too much training for war he hoped would never come. His Marines were volunteers, people who spent their lives preparing for a fight they prayed they would never face. We trained so we are ready, Minho had told her. We hope so we never need to be. But if the call comes, we answer. Because that is what it means to be human. The Valkyrish detected the human fleet and turned to engage. 300 biological warships, each one the size of a small moon, moved to intercept. They fired their molecular dissolution beams, weapons that had destroyed countless galactic vessels. Jiho's fighters danced through the barrage. Their ships were small and impossibly fast. Yuna watched in amazement as the pilots performed maneuvers that should have been fatal. They spun, twisted, and dove through walls of enemy fire with centimeters to spare. How are they surviving that? Hyan asked. Reaction time, Sora's voice answered over the communication line. Humans have faster reflexes than most species. Our pilots train in virtual simulations that last years. By the time they reach real combat, they have already fought 1,000 battles in their minds. The fighters reached the Valkyrish lines and unleashed their weapons. Missiles streaked toward enemy ships, but these were not ordinary missiles. They moved with intelligence, adapting their flight paths in real time. When Valkyrish point defenses shot one down, 2 more would come from different angles. Swarm tactics. Jiho's voice came through, calm despite the chaos around him. They want to overwhelm us with numbers? We show them what real swarm tactics look like. The heavy cruisers opened fire from their flanking positions. Railgun rounds, traveling at significant fractions of light speed, punched through Valkyrish armor like it was paper. The enemy ships tried to repair themselves using their biological regeneration, but the humans were ready for that too. Targeting their regeneration nodes, Sora reported. Fire in sequence. Do not give them time to adapt. Explosions bloomed across the Valkyrish fleet. Ships that had seemed unstoppable began breaking apart. The enemy tried to reorganize, to form defensive positions, but the human fleet was always one step ahead. They are learning our patterns, a tactical officer warned. Good, Do-hyun replied. Execute Variation 7. Suddenly, the human ships changed their entire approach. What had been coordinated strikes became chaotic hit-and-run attacks. What had been flanking formations became frontal assaults. The Valkyrie AI struggled to adapt to the rapid changes. Humans are unpredictable in battle, Tiemann observed. They do not follow rigid patterns. They improvise. Creativity, Una said, understanding. The old text mentioned it. Humans can think of new solutions in the middle of a fight. They adapt faster than any AI. A gap opened in the Valkyrie blockade. Minho's troop carriers surged forward, heading for the planet's surface. The Eternal Dawn followed, along with other galactic vessels. They landed near Talmora Prime's capital city. The planetary shield was failing, showing cracks where Valkyrie weapons had weakened it. The local defenders, the Talmora military, were exhausted from weeks of constant bombardment. Minho's Marines deployed rapidly. Una watched as they established a perimeter with practiced efficiency. Each Marine carried weapons that looked brutal but effective. They moved in small teams, covering each other with absolute trust. With the Marines came medics. Nari, a combat doctor, immediately began setting up field hospitals. She worked alongside Talmora doctors, showing them human medical techniques. "You treat wounded enemies too?" A Talmora physician asked, shocked, as Nari worked on an injured Valkyrie drone that had crashed nearby. "All life deserves a chance," Nari said simply. "We fight to protect, not to hate. This creature is wounded and helpless. That makes it a patient, not an enemy." The Valkyrie launched a ground assault, trying to break through before their orbital blockade completely collapsed. Thousands of their drones swarmed toward the capital city. Minho's Marines met them at the defensive line. The battle was brutal and close. Valkyrie's drones were strong and fast, bred for combat. But the Marines fought with something the drones did not have: purpose. Una watched from a safe position as Minho coordinated his forces. He did not shout or panic. He simply gave clear, calm orders that his Marines followed without hesitation. Squad 3, fall back to secondary positions. Squad 7, provide covering fire. Artillery, mark targets Alpha through Delta. A group of Talmora civilians were caught in the crossfire, trapped in a building surrounded by Valkyrie drones. Without waiting for orders, 3 Marines broke formation and charged toward the building. They took heavy fire but managed to reach the civilians. 1 Marine was injured badly. His armor was breached and he was bleeding. But he kept fighting, holding the doorway while his companions evacuated the civilians. When the last Talmora child was safe, the Marine finally allowed himself to collapse. Nari was there immediately, working to save his life while enemy fire continued around her. Other Marines formed a protective circle, taking hits meant for their wounded brother and the medic working to save him. "Why?" a Talmora soldier asked, fighting alongside the humans. "Why risk your lives for our people? You just met us." Minho, directing the battle nearby, answered without looking away from his tactical display. "Because it is the right thing to do. Because you would do the same for us. Because we are all just people trying to survive in a dangerous universe." Above the planet, Jiho's squadron executed their final maneuver. They've been steadily destroying Valkyrie command ships, severing the enemy's coordination. Now, with the blockade broken and the ground forces in retreat, the Valkyrie fleet began to withdraw. "Do we pursue?" a squadron leader asked. "Negative," Doyun ordered. "Let them run. Let them tell their commanders what happened here. Let them spread fear through their ranks." The battle ended. The Talmora were saved. 4 billion lives preserved. The humans began immediate relief operations, providing food, medicine, and supplies. Their military vessels transformed into aid ships. Una walked through the temporary camps where Talmora refugees were being cared for. She saw human soldiers sharing their rations with hungry children. She saw engineers repairing damaged buildings. She saw medics treating thousands of wounded, working until they collapsed from exhaustion. A Talmora elder approached her. "The stories about humans," he said quietly. "They said you were warriors without mercy, monsters who loved only war." "The stories were wrong," Yuna replied. "No," the elder corrected gently. "The stories were incomplete. You are warriors. You are terrifying in battle. But you are also the first ones to offer help after the fighting ends. You are both the sword and the shield." News of the victory spread across the galaxy. The council, the same one that had dismissed Yuna's research, now begged for human assistance. Species that had never heard of Earth suddenly knew the name by heart. But with the news came something else. Intelligence reports from Junho, Earth's intelligence officer working with galactic networks. The Vokresh were regrouping. They had identified humans as the primary threat. They were gathering their full strength for a massive counterattack. "How many ships are we talking about?" Do-hyun asked during the briefing. "Thousands," Junho reported grimly. "They are pulling forces from across their territory. This is not a raid or a blockade. This is their full military might." Sora looked at the star charts. "They are heading for the Celestial Gate. If they control that region, they can cut the galaxy in half. Billions will be trapped with no escape route." Do-hyun stood silently for a moment. Then he activated the fleet-wide channel. "All human vessels, this is Commander Do-hyun. We have won one battle, but the war is far from over. The enemy is coming in force. They want to break us. They want to show the galaxy that humans are not invincible." He paused, looking at the faces of his crew on the bridge. "They are right. We are not invincible. We can bleed. We can die. We can lose. But we will not give up. We will not surrender. And we will not let evil win. All ships, set course for the Celestial Gate. We are going to make a stand." The Celestial Gate was not a physical gate, but a region of space where several major hyperspace routes intersected. Control it, and you control trade, travel, and military movement for half the galaxy. Lose it, and billions of people would be trapped, cut off from reinforcements and supplies. The human fleet arrived 3 days before the Vokresh. They were not alone. Ships from dozens of species had answered the call to defend the gate, but Yuna could see the fear in their eyes. These were merchant vessels hastily armed with weapons. Science ships carrying soldiers who had never seen real combat. The galactic military had been caught completely unprepared for this war. Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the assembled fleet. "We cannot win this battle with strength alone," he said to his commanders. "We need to teach them how to fight." Yunha, Earth's diplomatic officer, had been working non-stop to organize the galactic forces. She was a patient woman with a gift for bringing different species together. Now she stood before representatives of 40 different civilizations, trying to forge them into a unified fighting force. "I know you are afraid," Yunha said. "I know many of you have never fought a real battle. But you are here because you chose to be. You are here because you believe in something worth protecting." A Delkari captain spoke up. "Our weapons are nothing compared to human technology. Our tactics are outdated. How can we possibly help?" "By learning," Sora answered, stepping forward. "We are going to teach you everything we know. You will not become expert warriors in 3 days, but you will be better than you are now. And better is enough to save lives." The humans split their forces, sending experienced officers to each galactic ship. They taught basic tactics: how to use cover, how to coordinate fire, how to retreat when necessary, and push forward when the moment was right. Most importantly, they taught them something the galactic forces had forgotten: adaptation. The Vokresh learned from every battle. Jiho explained to a group of fighter pilots from different species. If you do the same thing twice, they will kill you the second time. You must always change. Always think. Never become predictable. On the ground, Minho's Marines trained galactic soldiers in close combat. You will probably face Valkyrie drones in boarding actions, Minho said. They are strong and fast, but they follow patterns. Watch for the pattern. Break the pattern. Survive. A young Talmora soldier, one of the refugees from the battle they had won, asked, "What if we freeze? What if we are too scared to move?" Minho looked at him with understanding. Fear is natural. Fear keeps you alive. The trick is not to eliminate fear, but to act despite it. You do not need to be fearless. You just need to be brave enough to do what must be done. Meanwhile, Seung-ho and his Special Forces team were preparing for a different kind of mission. Seung-ho was a specialist in what humans called asymmetric warfare. He fought not with massive fleets, but with small teams in impossible situations. Intelligence suggests the Valkyrie Queen is coordinating the attack from a hive world 3 systems away. Seung-ho explained to Do-hyun, "If we can disrupt their command structure during the battle, it might give us the edge we need. You want to infiltrate a Valkyrie hive world during their largest military operation?" Do-hyun asked. "Yes, sir. That is suicide." "Probably," Seung-ho agreed. "But if we succeed, we save thousands of ships and millions of lives. That is a trade I am willing to make." Do-hyun studied the younger man for a long moment. "You have a team?" "Volunteers only. They all know the odds." "Then go, and come back alive." "That is an order." The Valkyrie arrived exactly when Junho's intelligence predicted. Their fleet was massive, blocking out the stars. Thousands of biological warships, each one pulsing with hostile intent. They moved in perfect formation, a single organism with one terrible purpose: destruction. The battle began at maximum range. Human railguns fired first, accelerating projectiles to relativistic speeds. The rounds took minutes to reach their targets, but arrived with devastating force. Valkyrie ships exploded, but more simply absorbed the damage and regenerated. "They've adapted to kinetic weapons," Sora reported. Switching to energy weapons and missiles, the galactic forces engaged alongside the humans. At first, they fought the way they had always fought, with traditional tactics and predictable patterns. The Valkyrie cut through them easily, destroying ship after ship. "Galactic Fleet, this is Commander Do-hyun." The commander's voice rang out. "Remember your training. Break formation. Engage in independent unit tactics. Do not let them predict you." It was chaos at first. Ships scattered in all directions. But then something remarkable happened. The galactic forces started adapting. A Dolkari cruiser used an asteroid field for cover, emerging at unexpected angles to fire before retreating. A group of Talmora fighters coordinated with a human squadron, using hit-and-run tactics that confused the Valkyrie. Targeting systems. Yuna watched from the eternal dawn as the battle evolved. "They are learning," she said in wonder. "Humans are good teachers," Timin replied, manning a sensor station. "But more importantly, the other species are proving they can adapt too. They just needed someone to show them how." The fighting was brutal. Ships on both sides died in flames and vacuum. Hyan piloted the Eternal Dawn through the chaos, using every trick Sora had taught him. They rescued escape pods, provided fire support, and relayed tactical information to isolated vessels. Aboard Do-hyun's flagship, the situation was desperate but not hopeless. The Valkyrie were slowly pushing forward, but the defensive line was holding. Barely. "We need something to break their momentum," Sora said, analyzing the battle data. "They are adapting to everything we throw at them. Then we show them something completely new," Do-hyun decided. He activated a secure channel. "Jiho, Execute Operation Asteroid. Jiho's squadron had been waiting in reserve, hidden among the debris field near the gate. At Do-hyun's command, they activated their ship's tractor beams. They had been secretly attaching engines to large asteroids, turning them into kinetic weapons. The modified asteroids began accelerating toward the Valkyrie fleet, pushed by human engines and guided by precise calculations. The Valkyrie tried to shoot them down, but there were too many, coming from too many angles. The asteroids slammed into the Valkyrie formation with the force of nuclear weapons. Ships were destroyed instantly. Others were knocked off course, colliding with their neighbors. The perfect Valkyrie coordination broke down into confusion. All forces, push forward now. Do-hyun ordered. The combined fleet surged ahead. For the first time, the Valkyrie began to retreat. It was a small retreat, just a few kilometers, but it proved something crucial. They could be beaten that far away on the Valkyrie hive world. Seung-ho's team had infiltrated the Queen's chamber. They moved through organic tunnels, avoiding drones and automated defenses. They carried specialized weapons designed to disrupt biological systems. Plant the charges, Seung-ho ordered. We have 5 minutes before they detect us. His team worked quickly, placing explosive devices on key support structures. These were not meant to kill the Queen, just to disrupt her ability to coordinate the fleet. Without her guidance, the Valkyrie would lose their perfect synchronization. They almost made it out. Almost. Alarms began blaring as they reached the extraction point. Thousands of drones swarmed toward them. Go! Seung-ho shouted to his team. I will hold them off. Sir, we cannot leave you. That is an order. Seung-ho fired his weapon, cutting down the first wave of drones. Get back to the ship. Tell Do-hyun. Tell him we succeeded. The charges detonated. The hive world shook. In space, at the Celestial Gate, every human commander noticed the change immediately. The Valkyrie fleet suddenly lost its coordination. Ships that had moved as one organism now operated independently, making mistakes, leaving gaps in their formation. Now, Do-hyun commanded. Full assault. Break their lines. The battle turned into a rout. Without their Queen's guidance, the Valkyrie could not adapt fast enough. They began a full retreat, abandoning their attack on the Celestial Gate. The combined fleet cheered. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had held the line and turned back the enemy. But the victory was not without cost. Dozens of ships had been destroyed. Thousands of soldiers and crew members had died. On the eternal dawn, Yuna read the casualty reports and wept for people she had never met but who had died fighting for a galaxy that had forgotten how to fight for itself. Yuna's voice came across all channels. To every being who fought today, human and galactic alike, know this: you are heroes. You proved that together, we are stronger than apart. You proved that the galaxy still has fight left in it. In the aftermath, something remarkable happened. The different species began truly working together. Telmora engineers helped repair human ships. Delcari medics treated wounded Marines. Former rivals and strangers became brothers and sisters in arms. Seung-ho's team escaped the hive world, but Seung-ho himself was presumed lost. Do-hyun stood at a memorial service, looking at the empty chair that represented their fallen comrade. He knew the risk, Nari said quietly, standing beside the commander. He went anyway. That is what makes it hurt more, Do-hyun replied. He chose to sacrifice himself. That is the burden of being human. We know the cost, and we pay it anyway. But the war was not over. The Valkyrie had been bloodied, but not broken. Intel? The warning came from Junho's intelligence network. A massive Valkyrie fleet, larger than anything seen before, was heading toward Earth. It was not just an attack. It was an extinction strike. They intended to destroy humanity's homeworld and break the spirit of the galactic resistance. Dayun stood in Earth's command center, watching the incoming reports. Around him, his commanders gathered. Sora, Jiho, Minho, Nari, Yunha, and dozens of others who had become the face of humanity's return to the galaxy. They are bringing everything they have left, Sora said, analyzing the fleet composition. 5,000 warships. Planet killer weapons. Biological weapons designed to consume entire ecosystems. They mean to erase us. Then we make our stand here, Do-hyun said simply. We protect our home. Yuna watched from her station on the Eternal Dawn, now permanently integrated into the human fleet. She thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a dismissed scholar to a witness of humanity's return. From myths to reality. We should evacuate Earth, a counselor suggested over the communication line. Get the civilians to safety. No, Do-hyun replied. We evacuate, and Earth becomes a symbol of human defeat. We stay and fight, and Earth becomes a symbol of human resilience. Our ancestors built the barrier to protect this world. Now we honor their legacy by defending it ourselves. The Galactic Fleet arrived to help. Every species that humanity had saved sent ships. The Talmora came with their entire remaining military. The Delkari brought their science vessels, now armed for war. Even small civilizations sent what they could, even if it was just a single ship. Yunha stood on the flagship's communication deck, addressing the assembled forces. You came to help us, she said, her voice filled with emotion. Humans, who you thought were myths, who you barely know. You came anyway. A Talmora admiral responded. You saved us when no one else would. You taught us to fight. You showed us that courage is not the absence of fear, but action despite it. Now we return that gift. The Vokresh fleet arrived at Earth's solar system like a plague of darkness. They moved with absolute purpose, heading straight for the blue planet that had become the symbol of the galaxy's resistance. Jiho led the first defensive wave. His fighter squadrons, now mixed with pilots from a dozen species, met the enemy at the outer planets. They could not stop the Vokresh advance, but they could slow it down, buying time for the main fleet to prepare. The battle was fierce. Jiho's squadron executed maneuvers they had practiced 1,000 times. They used Jupiter's gravity well to slingshot around and attack from unexpected angles. They hid in Saturn's rings and emerged to strike at vulnerable ships. All units, this is Jiho. He called out as enemy fire filled the space around him. Remember, we do not need to win. We just need to buy time. Every second we hold them here is another second for our families, our homes, our future. A Delkari pilot's ship was hit hard, spinning out of control. Jiho broke formation to cover the damaged vessel, taking fire meant for his ally. His own ship suffered damage, but he managed to shepherd the Delkari to safety behind friendly lines dotted Mars. Minho's Marines prepared for boarding actions. The Vokresh strategy included landing assault forces on human colonies and stations. Minho's troops would have to stop them. Listen up, Minho addressed his Marines, now mixed with soldiers from other species who had learned human combat techniques. They outnumber us. They are stronger individually. But we have something they do not. We have each other. We have purpose. We have something worth dying for. More importantly, we have something worth living for. The Vokresh dropships descended. The fighting was brutal and close. Minho led from the front, his rifle never stopping. Around him, Marines fought with desperate courage. When a Talmora soldier fell wounded, 2 human Marines dragged him to safety while continuing to fire. When a Marine's weapon jammed, a Delkari tossed him a spare. Nari and her medical teams worked in field hospitals, treating wounded as fast as they arrived. The casualties were mounting. Human, Talmora, Delkari, and dozens of other species lay side by side, bleeding the same, hurting the same, hoping the same. "We are going to run out of supplies," a medic warned. "Then we improvise," Nari said calmly. "We use what we have. We save who we can. And we never, ever give up." Above the planet, Sora commanded the main fleet. She had positioned Earth's defensive stations and orbital platforms in carefully calculated positions. As the Valkyresh fleet approached, they found themselves facing interlocking fields of fire, overlapping shields, and defensive positions that maximized every advantage. "They are trying to overwhelm us with numbers," Sora observed. "But they are funneling themselves into kill zones." The Valkyresh Queen, controlling her fleet from a massive command ship, realized the trap too late. She tried to pull back, to reorganize, but the Galactic fleet had learned from human tactics. They pressed the attack, not giving the enemy time to adapt. Doyen made a decision. "Sora, I need you to do something dangerous." "How dangerous?" she asked. "Potentially fatal to the flagship and everyone on it." Sora smiled grimly. "Give me the order, Commander. The Valkyresh Queen is on that command ship. If we can take it out, the entire fleet loses coordination. I want you to ram it." The bridge crew fell silent. Ramming was a suicide tactic, something from ancient history when ships were slower and less precise. But Sora understood. The flagship was heavily damaged already. If they were going to lose it anyway, better to make that loss count. "Engineering, divert all power to engines and forward shields," Sora ordered. "All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." "This is not a request. This is an order." "Captain, we cannot leave you," her first officer protested. "You can, and you will," Sora said firmly. "I need a skeleton crew to get this ship where it needs to go. Everyone else evacuates now. That includes you." As the crew reluctantly evacuated, Sora plotted her course. The flagship accelerated toward the Valkyresh Queen's command ship, building speed with every second. Enemy fire hammered their shields, but they kept going. From Earth, Dohyun watched. From the eternal dawn, Yuna watched. From across the galaxy, billions watched as a single human ship charged into the heart of the enemy fleet. "Sora," Dohyun said quietly over a private channel. "Thank you for everything." "It has been an honor, Commander," Sora replied. "Tell my family I love them. Tell them I died doing what I believed in." At the last moment, Sora and the remaining crew evacuated in the captain's emergency pod. The flagship, now running on automated systems, slammed into the Valkyresh Queen's ship at relativistic speed. The explosion was visible from Earth's surface. The Queen's ship disintegrated. The entire Valkyresh fleet shuddered as their central coordination collapsed. Ships collided with each other. Formations broke apart. The perfect unity that made them terrifying became their weakness when it shattered. "All forces, attack now," Dohyun commanded. The combined galactic fleet surged forward. Human ships, Talmora ships, Dalkari ships, and dozens of others moved as one. They had learned to fight as humans did, with creativity, adaptability, and unbreakable will. The battle turned into a rout. Without their queen, the Valkyresh could not coordinate. They began to scatter, to flee. The threat that had terrorized the galaxy for months was broken, but the victory came at terrible cost. Thousands had died. Ships floated as debris. Space stations lay in ruins. Earth cities showed scars from the orbital bombardment in the aftermath. Yuna walked through the memorial gardens that were being built on Earth. Thousands of names were carved into stone. Human names, Talmora names, Dalkari names, names from every species that had fought. She found Timon standing before the wall, his hand touching a name, Sungho, a special forces operative who had sacrificed himself at the Valkyresh hive world. He was right, Ting said quietly. About everything. Humans were real. They were myths that became reality. Sora had survived her evacuation and now stood with Do-hyun, overlooking the reconstruction efforts. We lost so much, she said. We saved more, Do-hyun replied. The galaxy is free. The Valkyries are scattered. And we proved something important. What is that? That isolation is not the answer. That peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. That we are stronger together than apart. Months later, Earth formally joined the galactic community. The barrier came down permanently. Humans began spreading across the stars again, but this time as partners, not conquerors. Yuna published her historical account of the war. It became required reading across all civilizations. She called it The Return, How Myths Became Family. Yunha worked tirelessly to build new alliances and treaties. She helped create a joint defense force, combining human tactics with galactic resources. The galaxy would never again be caught unprepared. Jiho trained new pilots, teaching them the skills that had saved billions. Minho taught ground combat techniques to soldiers from hundreds of species. Nari established medical exchange programs, sharing human medicine with alien doctors and learning from the Mem Return. The Celestial Gate, where they had made their desperate stand, became a monument. A massive structure was built there, honoring all who had fallen. Humans, Talmora, Delcari, and countless others. Their names carved in light, visible across the galaxy. 1 year after the war ended, a ceremony was held on Earth. Representatives from every species gathered in Seoul,